When I was in college, I became very fascinated with literature-based math. And I found that when I taught math in my undergraduate time, that students really responded well when I started a lesson with a picture book or some sort of literature. They weren't used to this during math time, and they really tuned in, and then I could break my math skill into something relatable to the text. And so I'm sharing here some of my favorite math mentor texts. And you can see some of them are nonfiction, definitely that one. Some of them are fiction. Some of them are a series that was made just for teaching math, but many of them were picture books that we can use to teach math. Just showcasing a few. Domino Edition was probably one of my first favorites, and I made dominoes on black construction paper, and for the white line I used white chalk and I painted the dots on, so we had dominoes to match everything in the book. And then you could see it shows the different sets that we have that we can make out of each of the numbers of the dominoes, and then each page has an addition problem, and then it has the shape of the number, and you have to find the domino that matches the addition answer. So the sum is 0, which domino shows 0. And it does that on each page. And we could make these with our giant dominoes up on the board, or I have little domino sets that they used in partners to find the answers. We had a lot of fun with it. It goes up to 12 plus 12. Because again, that's 6 plus 6 equals 12. It's the biggest size you can make on a domino. Another fun book I really like is What Time Is It, Mr. Crocodile? This is a picture book. And on each, if we start, we have down by Bristlecone Bay, where the wiffle fish play, Mr. Crocodile Esquire is planning his day. And here's his schedule, and it shows the digital times. And then if you see on each page, they'll have an analog clock to match that. What time is it, Mr. Crocodile? Time to wiggle my toes, time to put on my clothes, time to brush every tooth till it sparkles and glows. And we have our clock showing 9 o'clock. And if you remember on his schedule, that was his wake-up time. And it goes through his day like that. Again, it's a fun one to get the boys and girls matching digital clocks, the analog clocks, and having their own at their seat or on the floor. I have another telling time book, The Bats Around the Clock. This one actually tells them the time, and then they have to make it on the clock. So here's an example. At 1 o'clock Pacific time, those bats began to shrug. At 2 o'clock, Click Dark said, stop, it's time to jitterbug. So it's times around the clock over and over again. I also have an example of a nonfiction book. This is Dimes, and it's a series for math. It also has shapes. But it's a nice nonfiction story that has the text features that we learned about last week. And so they can learn to use this. But it has nice simple text and nice photographs. Very detailed. In the back, we have an index, a vocabulary glossary, and more information with websites. So it's a great nonfiction book to practice those text features. This book, Math Fables, is actually a poetry short story book, so they're nice and short, and that's always fun. So here's just a handful, and again, I use them before I teach my math lessons. So they sit down on the carpet with me on the easel, and we share the story, and then we move into whatever the concept the story matched. Some resources I had when I was starting out that helped me a lot were Mother Goose Math, Hickory Dickory Math, and Math Learning with Songs and Activities. And these show that you don't always have to use storybooks. You can use nursery rhymes, which most children are familiar with, or songs to create a math lesson. Now I'll just show you a quick, let's see if I can find a good one. So here's Hickory Dickory Dock, since we were talking about clocks. Here's the Hickory Dickory Dock nursery rhyme. You can print that out for the boys and girls. And then these are all the things that you can do to practice telling time with it, and it even has your assessments and integrating math and writing. And then it has a clock reproducible that they can make a clock. Here's Humpty Dumpty. And you think, what could we do with Humpty Dumpty? With Humpty Dumpty, we can use tangrams, which are shape blocks, and we can make shape patterns. So that's a good one. That's for geometry. You can also do fractions when you talk about breaking things into parts. And there's Humpty Dumpty fractions. Here's the story of the ugly duckling. So you could read the short story to them. And then you're going to sort and classify. And there's different ducklings. Also, there's a graph. So again, you could come up with all these activities on your own. I just thought it was a nice starting point for me. I want to show you one more resource, and this is something I made when I was in college, and I was so interested in literature-based math. I was just beginning to gather books, and this was before the internet was out there, so you can find most of these things on the internet now. But I put together a big binder, and it has a table of contents, and for each of the areas of math that I had to teach for my first grade classroom, I gathered 2 or more books, and then I created a file folder game for each one. So this isn't rocket science, but I wanted to show you how easily you can make materials. A lot of these are on flannel, so you could use them on a flannel board. You can use magnets. I was coloring and with marker and cutting out, coloring with colored pencil, but you could print. There's so many resources on Pinterest that are similar. But so this was the story 10 in the bed. It's a real cute little story. And I just made up these centers for the boys and girls. It gives them directions as to what to do when they get there. And they're shuffling the cards, they're putting them in order, and they're ordering them backwards from 10 to 1. So these are, centers that you'd send them to. But again, maybe we're going to use our stories to introduce a lesson, or maybe we're going to read the story and then on another day send them to a center that matches. And this is how you have content-based learning that is integrating literature.